Cool Hand Podcast, something you got to deal with. Welcome back to the show. I am your host. My name is Q. We have a very special guest in the building, somebody who is returning to the show. You've seen this person as a co-host on the podcast, but we actually interviewed this person in the past, and I know this guest very well because they happen to be my wife, happen to marry this person a little over 5 years ago. So I'm very happy to have you back. But enough of me, what's the word that I want to use? Blabbering. Guest, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kayla, a.k.a. Kayla Eloise, a.k.a. Kayla Kreates, a.k.a. your wife.
There you go. There you go. Thank you for coming back on the show, Kayla. And this is different from the other episodes that we've had in the past. Now, I once before interviewed Kayla when the podcast first started. And that's back when I was like posting the interviews and podcast episodes on SoundCloud. So that episode is not readily available right now. I'm going to try to pull it up when I'm like editing this, just so people can get a history and background on some of Kayla's special talents. And this is an exclusive episode, a Cool Hand Podcast exclusive, because Kayla Kreates has some news for us. But before we get into the special news, because we're going to get into it, you recently opened up a website, right? Okay. And can you talk about that? Because we have a history of you doing poetry, writing, art, but you had an Instagram post recently talking about how you had to step away for a little bit. Can you get into that, ma'am?
Sure. So basically, I really wasn't sure what direction I wanted to take Kayla Kreates, or if I even wanted to continue with Kayla Kreates, because I don't know, it just didn't seem to be something that was feasible in terms of the amount of time that I had. But once I decided that I wanted to go through with it, I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. I want to do it well. And I want it to be the way that I want it to be, because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist sometimes. I try to, be balanced, but I want stuff to be how I want stuff to be, especially if it's going to have my name on it. So I took a lot of time really finalizing some like business aspects of it, making sure that I had everything in order in that regard. I drafted contracts, things like that. I really went through a lot of like technical things. And then I didn't want to announce that I was full-fledged back, until I knew that I was back and ready. So I was like, you know what? Let me just knock out this website. I actually have been working on the website for 3 years, truthfully, but here and there, not too frequently until within the past year that I really buckled down and made sure that I made progress on that. So taking time to put the website together, taking time to, curate all the little details and make sure everything was perfect. So that played a big part into it too, was just making sure that I was ready when I was ready.
Mm-hmm. And what do you offer on this website?
So the website primarily serves as a place for me to showcase some of the things that I do. I have way too many hobbies. I have way too many things that I like to do, but I'm just a creative person and I didn't want to limit myself. So it doubles as like a gallery to showcase my art, sell art prints and my poetry, and maybe one day, hopefully I'll get back into photography. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to put that there just in case. It looks a mess. That page looks a mess right now, but that's okay because I'm not always all the way together. Sometimes I'm a mess. And then also the other side of, the other side of that is offering creative services to people. So something that I've kind of always done was be a channel for people to get things created that they might have an idea for, but not really any way to execute that idea. So I like to be able to provide my expertise, if that's what you want to call it, in that way, and also like customizations, and basically like I kind of like, if you ask me and it's something that I have done or that is in my scope, then I'll say, you know what? Yeah. And if you ask me and it's not within my scope or I don't feel comfortable doing it, then I'll say, you know what? No, but keep me in mind. So there's a page on there for that, that lists all the things that I do and that I have done, and the prices for those. And then also there's at the bottom of the page a section for inquiries. If you have an idea that you're not sure whether or not it fits, just let me know.
Yeah, Kayla's pretty good at that when you talk about your creative services. I always like to give credit where credit is due. And I can attest to some of these creative services in the sense of she helps out a good deal with the podcast when she can. If you look on the Cool Hand Podcast Instagram, any pictures of, any good pictures that were taken of me were taken by Kayla. She gives me ideas, and I'll tell you something, like I hate taking pictures, to tell you the truth, but I feel like it's a necessary evil to showcase some of the brands that I buy from. But she'll say, okay, why don't you stand over there? Or why don't you, we're nearest like some big rocks. Why don't you stand on this rock and try doing this and do that? And so she'll get like the angle right and everything for the picture. She came up with this here and she had it made, and all this looks beautiful, doesn't it? But this wasn't her complete vision. The person who made it didn't follow the directions properly. Nonetheless, it still looks great.
I was hot about that.
She was,
but it looks fine.
But all that to say, and she does a lot more thumbnails and things like that. Any thumbnail that doesn't look like crap on the Cool Hand Podcast page was created by Kayla. So you have a lot of services, and one of these services that you, not services that you offer, but something that will be on the website that you mentioned was, okay, you said art, graphic design, but you said poetry, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about some of your poetry in the past as well on that podcast that nobody can find right now. But this very special announcement has something to do with poetry. Am I correct?
It does indeed, yes.
So let's just do a little drum roll. Why do I have this exclusive? Talk to us. What's happening? I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, so I have a really major project that I've been working on for the past year, and it is a poetry book.
Ta-da!
It is my first ever, probably only, but we'll just call it my first ever published collection of poems. And it is called My Favorite Color is Yellow. Because, was that even, I don't think that was in frame. I should have did it over here. Here we go. My favorite color is yellow. Because my favorite color is yellow, but it also is, it's very indicative to the story that's being told. I had a hard time kind of landing on a name for the book. I really only thought of this one, and I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I'm not in love with it, but like, it was the only one that stuck. So it's here to stay.
All right. So when will this book be released?
It will be released December 1st, 2023. So pretty soon.
All right. You got a few days. So spread the word, y'all. And where can we purchase this book?
So it will be available for pre-order on my website. And it'll also be available on Amazon.
All right. Now, inflation, the cost of rent, interests, mortgages. Now, how much do you expect a paying customer like myself to come out of pocket for this piece of art?
So it's actually not not expensive. It's $14.99, which is really the average price of a poetry book like this.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to get some of those things out the way so I didn't forget. So I want to talk about my favorite color is yellow, because you gave us a little bit of the background on the name, but what are the contents of this poetry book?
Right. So the poetry book really is a memoir told through poems. So this poetry book is the story of how I overcame a really deep, dark depression. So it kind of just follows the order of events in when I started, realizing that I was feeling an overwhelming sadness and feeling of despondency, not just like, man, I'm having a bad day, but whenever I began writing poetry about my feelings, that's when the book begins, and it goes all the way through when it comes in terms of the emotions that I was feeling, the discoveries that I was making, the realizations that I was coming to within myself, and then just within the experiences in my life that played a major role and a major impact in who I am today. The reason why I struggle. And then it goes into, how I began to find myself again. And it ends on a positive note, thankfully. It's heavy reading. It's not light, but it does end on a positive note. So that's a good thing.
Now, I read the book. And I can attest to everything that Kayla's saying. It's well written. I think there are some droplets of real creativity, even in terms of how some of the poems are formatted, so to speak. But you just don't get words on a page. And although that the poems speak to you through illustrations, creative things, stuff like that, metaphors, similes, so on and so forth, it comes with something else with each poem. You have a page of the poem and then something else. And what is that something else, ma'am?
So each poem comes with a full page illustration, illustrated by me. And it wasn't originally going to be that way because I don't know. I just, the idea just kind of came to me all of a sudden. And I was like, man, you know what? I want to put some images with these. I want to actually kind of help the reader get a feel for exactly what it is that's being expressed. Because although there are vivid descriptions through imagery with words, I think it being accompanied with the illustration on the next page really shows you what exactly I'm trying to convey. Because poetry, of course, is to each reader going to be something different, and it's very personal and intimate for each reader, which I love, and I would love for people to be able to, see themselves in it if they relate to it. But I also wanted it to be clear what I wanted to convey as well. So it's like that's the images are a way that I could do that.
Mm-hmm. So, with the images, is this something that because this is for myself. I read through the book and I looked at the pictures, but when I talked to you about the book, I ended up finding out there was a lot of things that I missed with the illustrations. So is there anything that you would just want to add? I wanted to throw that in there as well, because if you're like me, you might just read the poem and look at the picture, read the poem. Oh, this applies. Read the poem. This applies. Mm-hmm. But what else about the pictures? Like, I guess I'm not asking a question. I'm saying to pay attention to the pictures, to the illustrations. And as Kayla said, these are all created by her. These are all Kayla Kreates originals. Now, in this book is vulnerable. This book is personal.
Yeah.
This book is intimate. What gave you the confidence to not just write these poems, because many people have talents and they write them down, but the confidence to share this? I was cooking too. And then I, but the confidence to share this with the world?
That's a great question. Because I've been writing poetry for a long time, a very long time, but I wouldn't share it with anyone but my mom. And then when we got married, I would share it with you. So nobody really knew what I was writing.
Now, hold on now.
Yeah.
It wasn't when we got married you shared them with me.
Yeah, it was before
when we first started talking, I was working at Shady Side Hospital.
No, you're right.
On floor 7 in the oncology satellite pharmacy.
Oh my gosh.
And she shared a poem with me when we first started talking. I ain't new to this.
Yeah.
I'm true to this. Please continue.
No, you're right. You're right. It was the fact that we were such good friends and I felt so comfortable with you sharing that part of myself with you.
Yeah, because I don't want to chastise you or correct you, but I'm like, that's one of the things that I'm like, oh, this sister is deep. So it wasn't when we got married. We've been about this.
Yeah, no. Thank you for correcting me though.
Oh, no. Please continue. I had to throw that out there.
But yeah, so I after experiencing this and really working my way through all of the darkness and sadness, I really struggled with being myself again in public. So it just in general, like feeling confident in myself and in the way that I carried myself, in the way, that I spoke. I was second guessing everything that I did. So although I was making such great, tremendous strides and progress and, fighting away the negative thoughts, there was still a part of me that was like battling. It was just a different kind. And then I would take photos, we would take pictures of my outfits and stuff because I love to dress. One thing about me, if you tell me to get dressed up, I'm gonna get dressed up. But I had pictures and I wouldn't post them because I just felt I still wasn't quite, there. But then one day I was just like, you know what? Forget it. Forget all of this. I'm going to post. I'm going to post a picture. And not only that, but I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to just rip the Band-Aid off and I'm going to put a paragraph under this picture and I'm going to tell people what I was going through, what I experienced. And I did that. And that was October of 2022. And when I did that, I didn't realize how many people could relate to it. I didn't realize how many people had felt the same way as I did and how many people found courage in my courage in telling people that. And I was like, whoa, like, that's crazy. Like, I had no idea that it would be that overwhelming for me for a whole nother reason. And I was like, you know what? This is important. Like, people should share. People should know, because what happened was nobody knew that I was going through a depression. Nobody knew what was going on in my mind. I hid it so well. I was continuing to, be the same Kayla that everybody knew. So there would be no way for people to know that I was down in the trenches, crying in the club deep. So for them to see that side of me, it was surprising. And I was like, I'm sure there are so many people who are in the trenches, crying in the club, a hot mess, going through stuff, depressed. And nobody knows because they're pretending like everything's okay. So then I was like, nah, okay, if I went through this, I'm gonna turn it around and I'm gonna use it for something positive and to spread awareness or to help people to be able to cope or relate, if to know that they're not alone. And so it was that one Instagram post of me being vulnerable that one time that made me think, I'm going to share my poetry, because I never wanted to share my poetry because it was dark. It was depressing. And I'm like, I don't want people to read this and be like, man, like, what's wrong with her? Or to raise alarm, or for people to be concerned and be like, oh man, like Kayla's crazy. Like, so like I never wanted, but I'm like, no, people need to see. And it wasn't until recently that I was able to start writing happier, more uplifting poetry. So, but yeah, that's really what made me decide to share it, was the fact that I realized like, no, there's probably so many people that are like me, but they don't even show it.
Mm-hmm. So this is what we can expect from My Favorite Color is Yellow, releasing December 1st, 2023. Some of the things, speaking on depression, hiding it, the term crying in the club, things like that. Now let's talk. Forget the book right now. Mm-hmm. Because you're writing about your troubles. But how did Kayla get through that depressive state? And it's not just a state. It can be a chronic depression.
Yeah.
It could be something that we have to live with for the rest of our imperfect lives. So what helped you get through your struggles?
First off, I want to say, yeah, you're absolutely right. It is something that I still continue to, battle with. But what helped me was, number one, realizing that something was wrong. Like, okay, like, sis, this is not okay. That's the first step, is like, because I was in denial. And that's actually what one of my poems is about. If it's conveyed correctly, hopefully, if you can truly understand. But the poem, I'm Good, was like, it's about denial. So I was constantly fighting against, this thing within myself. Once I finally realized, like, no, like, something's wrong. Like, this is not normal. This is not okay. And I don't want to live like this. After that, because it was so bad that like I would try to pray, but I couldn't even get anything out. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't focus. Anytime I would be like, you know what? I just need to read an article. I just need to study something. I would go and try to study something, and my brain would be like, we're not doing this. My brain would be like, no, you're not concentrating. And I would be like, what? Like, this is, I'm trying to help myself. Mm-hmm. I can't even do that. Like, I can't even put myself in a better mood in the way that I used to be able to, in the way that I used to, the things that used to be the solution were not solutioning anymore. So like, I just, the day that like, it was like so overwhelming that I didn't think I was going to make it. I just cried and I prayed incessantly. And I just said, I need help. I need help. But I was too I was too embarrassed to speak to someone that I knew, because I didn't want, once again, I didn't want people to think of me differently. I didn't want people to, to read too much into it, I didn't want none of that. And then that next morning I woke up realizing I need therapy. Like, I need to go to therapy bad. And so I was like, forget it. I just started calling places and was like, do you accept this insurance? And they were like, oh, no, sorry, we don't. That's fine. Click. Hey, do you accept this? I was real calm about it, too. Do you accept this insurance? No. Click. Do you accept this? And finally, I got, someone who did. And it was so, I don't know, it was so like relieving to be able to take that step. And then once I did, therapy helped me tremendously. And therapy only works if you're ready and if you're giving it all that you can give, and that you're taking it seriously, and you're willing to put in the work, and you're willing to talk, and you're willing, you know what I mean? Like, you have to be willing. And I was, because I was like, I need help. So that was it. Accepting it, praying, and then realizing I need help, and then getting that help, taking action, getting that help, putting the work in. And I was able to I was able to get the skills that I needed to help me to diffuse the situation within my mind, to address what was going on, to work through the problems that I needed to work through in my past. And then also it gave me insight into why I am the way I am and why I do the things that I do sometimes that I don't even realize. So it was like giving me what I needed in order to be proactive about just, I don't know, my mind just went blank. But to be proactive about taking care of my mental health.
How do you view yourself after you made these changes compared to how you viewed yourself before seeking help?
So I'm actually going to take it even a step further. Before I was ever even depressed, I was a radiant and confident person. Just from within, I just loved myself. I loved, being excited about things, being excited for people. I really see how confident I was, just, as an optimistic and happy person. And so then, and I also never experienced like anxiety, like the clinical anxiety. So going through the depression and the anxiety, I felt like I loathed myself. It was a complete 180. I hated everything about myself. And it didn't matter what anyone told me. It didn't matter, what actually was the reality. There was nothing that I could do that could satisfy, it was just negativity. And I had no confidence. I had no desire to do any of the things that I knew that I loved. It's not that I didn't love the things anymore. I loved them, but I couldn't do it. And so everything that I had known about myself fell apart. And what made it worse was that I could see that it was, like falling apart. because I wasn't like this before. Like, I have some friends who, you know, have expressed to me that they've always had anxiety. Even from as early as they can remember, from youth on, they have struggled with anxiety. And now they're able to really, you know, keep it in check because they've had that experience. I went from not having anxiety to literally questioning everything about myself and everything in my life for no reason. So that in itself messed with my mind. Like, I was like tripping, like, and then I would get angry at myself for having anxiety. And I would get angry at myself for crying, and I would get angry, and it was just so confusing. Whereas now, not only am I back to loving life and loving, you know, the things that I love to do and being optimistic and excited. And I really love the person that I am. And I love the way that I love the way that I didn't give up. And I think that because I went through what I did, it makes it a little bit easier for me to love myself, because I know that I don't ever want to feel that way again. And everybody deserves to love themselves, regardless of any mistakes that they've made, any experiences in their life. Like, there's no reason why you should just hate yourself. It's not necessary.
Thank you.
I don't know why I didn't bring a tissue. Like, I thought I wasn't going to cry. I cry all the time now. I know I should have known I was going to cry.
That's how real it is. You know, these are real emotions.
Yeah.
You know, proud of you, okay?
Okay.
You know?
Do I have time to get a napkin?
Sure.
Because I done worked on my makeup and everything. Sorry, I'll be back.
Gonna take a brief intermission here. Kayla's gonna go get a napkin. But I'm gonna tell you like this while the camera's on me, okay? As being somebody who is around, you know, I'm her husband, right? And I want to say it takes a lot of courage to do what she's done, because many people don't overcome the potential stigma that is attached to being labeled as having depression or anxiety. You might not want to feel like you're crazy, but at the end of the day, the fact of the matter is we are imperfect human beings, and some have a little more issues, problems than others, and we all handle things differently. Because you may not be able to think straight or want to get out of bed, or don't let those things stop you from getting help. Don't let those things stop you from telling yourself, I am normal. I am a human being, but I have depression. I am normal, but I have anxiety. I am normal, but I got a little OCD. I'm going to leave it alone. We're going to welcome Kayla Kreates back to the show. Shh.
I had to let you cook.
No, I
was cooking.
I was flying off the hip.
Get the pillow. All right.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
All right. So thank you for, opening up and sharing with everybody, because, it's appreciated. And I'm sure if there's one person out there who may appreciate it, if not one, then me. I might be the one, So we're going to get all of this. All of these emotions are packed in the book. My favorite color is yellow, dropping December 1st, 2023. Get it on Kayla Kreates website. And you can also get it on Amazon. Now, we're going to transition into the creation of the book, not the contents of the book, but the actual creation. Now, you're going to look in this book and you're going to see the pictures, which we discussed. These were all Kayla Kreates originals. You're going to look at the book and you're going to see things like a cover. You're going to see things like pages. You're going to see things like text. Now, if it's somebody like me, I go to the store, pick up a book, and the book is made. You go to you go to something with the finished product, But what went into the creation of this book? Because I've seen you firsthand working on this, going through different stages on the production of these things. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes. So first and foremost, I have never written a book before. And when you write a book, there's a certain way that things just need to be done in order for it to be a book. So I had to learn how to write a manuscript. Starts there. I had, I guess not more so write it, because a lot of my poems were already written. So I just had to put it together and use the format of a manuscript. And then it's like, okay, which manuscript do you use? Because different kinds of books use different kinds of manuscripts. So there was a lot of research that went into just that part, and figuring out, what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do that. And then I had to figure out how I wanted to go about getting the book made, and like finding, a printery or a publisher or whatever I wanted to do. And I want to say, shout out, I keep touching this wire, I'm so sorry. Shout out to Jazzy Vaughn, because she's a real one. A long time ago, I asked her, because I was so impressed with her. And actually she's a big inspiration for me in terms of like why I did the book, because I didn't even think that was something that I could do or that could be done until I saw, her book, Habits. I was like, wow, like, look at her. That is so cool. Like, she really did that. And that inspired me a lot. And then, I was like, let me just text her and see, like, what did she do? And she told me exactly what she did. She said, I just used Amazon KDP. I had never heard of a KDP. I didn't know what that was. So I was like, oh, okay. And she was like, yeah, she gave me some tips of, she's like, make sure you have it all done before you start messing around with them, because they want it to be done and, and be ready. So I looked around, I gave it a little look through and to see how it went. And honestly, after she said that, I was like, that's who I'm going with. Cause I know, it worked for her. And, I heard about other, publishers like Ingram Spark but I just decided to go with Amazon KDP. And from there, I just had to follow their format, like their directions on their website. I had to create a cover for my book, and I used like their template on there, so that wasn't too hard. They gave me the perfect sizing. They ask you all types of questions like what size do you want the final book to be? What kind of paper do you want? Is it going to be black and white or color? If you want premium white paper, or if you want, like, all those different things come into play. And then also the cover stock. Do you want it to be glossy? Do you want it to be matte? And I knew right away that I wanted it to be matte, even though that goes against everything that I know as like a graphic designer. Gloss goes well with color, photos, really bringing out the detail. And in photos, but something about the matte just felt more like, I don't know. It to me, it feels like luxury. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if that makes sense, but like the matte just is like, this is quality. Like this is a nice book. And then once I had my manuscript put together, which took a little while, I uploaded it on there, and then they give you like a preview of what it'll look like. And I had to do that and one night, I think I did it like 6 times. And it because it has so many digital illustrations in it, it was a really big file. So it took forever for it to upload and then generate a preview. I mean, I was doing this for like 4.5 hours because I would upload it and then look and click through and look at each page. And then there would be like a white space at the bottom. And I would be like, dude, like, what the heck? So then I would go back and like move the image down. But before that, honestly, it took me 3 tries to get it right because they didn't like where my text was placed. They were like, no, it needs to be within these parameters, in order for it to be approved. And I'm like, oh. So that I did that 3 times. And then I had to go back. And then once I had that approved, my images weren't lining up right. So yeah, that took a long time to do. And then once it was the generated preview was approved, then I could order like the draft. I could see what it looked like in person, which was so exciting because like that's when it all came together for me. Like it was coming together the whole time, but like to see it, to feel it, to be able to turn through, I was like, man, wait, I skipped something way in the beginning when I was doing when I was doing my research. I had to decide whether or not I wanted to buy my own ISBN, which is basically like the social security number of a book, is the way it was described to me. But I had to figure out if I wanted to buy my own ISBN or use the free ISBN that Amazon KDP will give you if you go with that option. And the reason why I decided against that was because I wanted to be able to own the rights completely to my book. I didn't want them to decide what they wanted to do with it. Like they're just they're just an avenue through which I'm getting, my work done. They're not in charge of that. Y'all just printing it for me. I'm not, y'all printing it and shipping it for me. So I had to research that, get an ISBN. With an ISBN, I had to get a barcode on the back. I had to get that myself. And I like the fact that I did because whenever I was designing my cover, I started playing around with little things and pulling elements from the images that I drew and putting them in random places. And if you look real close, on top of the barcode is a glass of spilled milk. So that's the draft. So you'll have to look on the official one.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I'd never read the back of the book.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm tripping. So I didn't do thorough enough research. But that's pretty cool, Kayla.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. That's my wife, y'all. So thanks for sharing that as well. So all that to say, because I'm gonna tell you the truth, as you were saying. Now I'm aware that Kayla's been working on this book forever, but I'm not around. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing dishes. I'm at the gym. I'm getting, something else. I'm not physically right next to her. But you describing that, I'm like, that's out. As you're saying, like, okay, you try and the text isn't in the parameters. Frustrating.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
You do it, you do this, that, and the third, and it seems like you have to sacrifice some of your creativity to conform to the standards of this being printed and distributed by a certain entity. So all of that, it's like you're falling down, trying up again. Falling down, trying up again.
I mean, it makes sense.
I'm gonna roll with it. You fall down and try up again. So, and even, it's like you get pushed down so many times, but these are some of the learning pains, the growing pains, because if you wanted to do this again, you know what to do. Yeah. You have a better understanding of how these things work. And I really commend you for not giving up. That's the thing about my wife, y'all. Now, I was coming to her right now as an interviewer, but right now I'm talking as a husband. Now, this is the thing about my wife. Kayla's not a quitter. Dead homies. She's not a quitter at all. Like, you can't call her anything you want, because I'm gonna have a problem with that. But figuratively speaking, you could call her anything you want, but you can't call her a quitter. But don't call her anything you want. Like, I'll knock you out. I'm not joking. So. Sorry, y'all. I'm gonna cut that out.
Let's reel it in.
Yeah. Let me sensitive about my baby. But anyway, I really appreciate that, because I always put myself in somebody else's shoes, and I can see myself at that computer trying to upload it, and then they say, you probably get like some red text.
Yep.
Like,
that's exactly how I was too.
So that's frustrating. So when you pay that $14.99, this is what you're getting. This is what you're getting. So you're not getting just a book. You see the finished product, as we talked about before. But no, let me stop talking, because I have one more. We have a couple more things. The cover. My favorite color is yellow. Now, what can you describe this cover and what made you go with this?
Yeah, so it kind of it came together randomly, like bits and pieces. The theme throughout the book has kind of been like this galaxy outer space background that I just kind of kept using, because I was like, I'm feeling this, I'm digging this. And sometimes when I was going through the emotions, I felt like I was just operating in a different galaxy than everyone else, in a different world. So like, that's why there's a lot of this space-like background. So I was like, you know what? Let's throw it on a cover too. This little this person on the front, of course, is supposed to be me. So yeah, it's me, and I'm sitting on the grass, kind of like on a hill, and I'm wearing a yellow dress, but it's not just any old regular dress. It's actually a dress made out of flower petals, like it's supposed to look like a marigold flower, which is the title of one of my poems. So you know how that goes. But yeah, so the dress is actually a marigold flower that I am a part of. So it represents like my growth. And so really what it is I just took that from the image that goes with the marigold poem, and I put that on the grass without the flowers, because it looked a little bit too busy with the flowers. And then this like circle is, it almost feels like I'm coming up with how to describe this now, because I truthfully didn't come up with any way to describe it. The pieces just came together. So this little circle with the clouds in the sky is almost like a portal into the hope. Like there's a way out. Like you're not going to be stuck by yourself in the galaxy forever. And the clouds that are kind of like layered on like in front of that portal just show that it's closer than you think. And my favorite color is yellow. I just hand wrote that because I could. And then the sun I actually put there because since I just took the little image of me from the marigold photo and put it on there, it looked weird for my arm to be up there like that for no reason, because like it's kind of like, you know, like when the sun's in your eyes, you kind of that's the reason why my hand's up there like that. And I didn't feel like changing it. I didn't feel like putting my hand down. So I was like, well, let's put the sun in the corner, and that way it still makes sense. But other than that, there are little pieces, like I said before, of different poems that are scattered about. So like on the front, on the edge there, being cut off a little bit, is this pack of dynamite explosive. On the back, there's like a box of tissues, which you'll be able to see where that comes from when you go through the poems and in the photos. Then there's me falling into the oblivion on the right hand side over there in the back. And then on the left, all the way at the bottom, is just like my hand reaching out of a black hole, which is another image from the poem Black Hole. And then there's the glass of milk on top of the barcode. So that's the breakdown. Am I convinced? I'm convinced. That made sense to me.
I'm sold. So thank you for sharing that. Were there any last words before we kind of wrap this up? We don't want to wrap this up without having a little taste of the poems that are in this book, or maybe just one. But any last words, anything that I forgot to add, something you want to mention, shout outs, things of that nature?
Definitely shout out once again to Jazzy Vaughn. I feel like she probably doesn't realize how much of a crucial role she had in this coming to be. So shout out to her. Shout out to my therapist. Shout out to you. I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for you. You don't even know.
I don't. You know, this isn't about me. But I'd be feeling like I don't be helping y'all. I'm gonna just keep it real. Oh, I don't feel like I'd be helping. So that's why I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes, you know, you try, but you never know if you're helping or hurting. I'm just keeping it real. But go ahead.
You're very much appreciated. And shout out to you for having me on the podcast. But yeah.
Shout out to Jazzy Vaughn. I wanted to say this. I didn't want to cut you off, but her name for this episode is Big Sensei.
Big Sensei.
Because she was like a sensei to Kayla.
Yes.
But, you know, in the hip hop community, when we throw big on something, it's not in terms of size, height, but the magnitude that your status has.
Yeah.
Ain't no Jazz and ain't no Yvonne, ain't no mentor, it's sensei. And it ain't even a sensei. Big sensei.
Big sensei, not the little one.
Shout out to the big sensei. Shout out to Kayla Eloise. Let's have a poem read. You choose. I don't know which one it is ahead of time, but let's hear something. Give the people a little taste.
Okay.
Well, watch yourself now. Oh.
This poem is called Black Hole. How do you drown in a sea that no one else sees, quietly ignoring the urge to scream. How do you fill a broken glass? Exhaustingly, in hopes that one day it might last. How do you see through bloodshot eyes? Quite easily, to my surprise. I want to cry out for help, but I can't seem to get it out. With all my might, but quite inaudibly, I shout, can you hear it in my happy voice? Can you see it in my smiling eyes? Encrypted in my cheerful spirit is the truth of my demise. Tears suppressed through what appears to be an endless stream of heartache. I can manage a broken bone, but what do you do when your soul breaks? Can you become whole again? Or do you fall victim to that whole again over and over, tripping on the rotten roots that have now blossomed into a trend, a black hole, witfully drawing you in, tirelessly fighting evil thoughts so that you might rise again, and you will, because you always do. The sad cycle of emotional warfare is tough, but it's not tougher than you.
My favorite color is yellow. December 1st, 2023. Kayla Kreates, KaylaCreates.com.
KaylaCreates.com.
Amazon what? Amazon.com.
My favorite color is yellow.
My favorite color is yellow.
Kayla Eloise.
Kayla Eloise. Thank you for being on the show. I love you. This is the Cool Hand Podcast, something we got to deal with. See, I guess it is. Cool Hand Podcast, something we got to deal with. Easy.
You didn't give me a chance to say I love you too.